There's a moment you've had, maybe more times than you'd like to admit, where you were standing in front of someone you felt something for, and you had the perfect thing to say. You felt it rise in your chest. And then you said nothing. Or worse, you said something ordinary, something forgettable. And you watched the moment close like a door you didn't know was already shutting. That silence wasn't weakness. That silence was intelligence. Somewhere inside you, you already knew that what she needed to hear wasn't a compliment. It was a recognition. Welcome to Psychology of Desire, where we don't talk about attraction the way magazines talk about attraction. We go deeper. We go into the places most people are too afraid to look. If this kind of truth resonates with you, stay close to this channel. Not because you need to, but because something in you already knows you've been looking for this. Now, let's talk about desire. Not the version of desire that lives on the surface, the kind that responds to a well-timed joke or the right cologne. That kind fades before the weekends. We're talking about the desire that lives underneath language, the kind that makes someone think about you at 2 in the morning for reasons they cannot explain to themselves. The kind that feels, to her, almost against her will. And here is what most people never understand about that kind of desire. It is not ignited by what you say. It is ignited by what you see. Because the deepest human hunger, the one that drives almost every unconscious decision a person makes in love, is the hunger to be known. Not admired, not flattered, known, witnessed, understood at a level that feels almost dangerous, because understanding at that depth means someone has been paying very close attention to who you actually are, not who you perform yourself to be. Most people move through the world performing. She performs confidence at work while carrying a loneliness she has no name for. She laughs at the right moments in conversations while somewhere inside, a quieter version of her is waiting, just waiting, for someone to notice what the laughter is covering. And she has waited for a long time. She has been complimented on her eyes, on her smile, on how well she carries herself. And every single compliment, no matter how genuine, lands in the same place. The surface. It touches the mask, never the face underneath. This is why the compliments we're about to uncover feel forbidden. Not because they cross a line, but because they walk directly past the line most people stop at. And they keep going. They reach into the interior of a person. And when something reaches into the interior of a person and names what it finds there honestly, without agenda, without expectation, something irreversible happens. She doesn't just feel seen, she feels found. And being found, after a long time of being invisible in plain sight, is one of the most destabilizing, most quietly devastating feelings a human being can experience. That is where desire lives. Not in the compliment, in the consequence of being truly witnessed. So, what does it actually sound like to witness someone at that level? What are the words that carry that kind of weight without collapsing under their own intention? The first forbidden compliment is not a compliment in the traditional sense. You will not find it on a list. You will not hear it in a romantic comedy. It sounds, on the surface, almost too simple. And yet, when it lands on the right person at the right moment, it does something to them that 1,000 rehearsed lines never could. You say to her, quietly, without drama, without the performance of a man trying to impress, "You work very hard at making people comfortable around you, don't you?" Not a question, an observation. Said gently, said like someone who has been watching, not in the way that unsettles, but in the way that sees. And notice what that sentence does. It does not compliment what she shows the world. It names what she does for the world at a cost to herself. It reaches past the warmth she radiates and touches the effort underneath it, the quiet exhaustion of being the person who holds the room together, the invisible labor of a woman who has spent years being emotionally generous to everyone around her while quietly wondering if anyone would ever be emotionally generous back. When you say that to her, something shifts. Her body language changes before her mind has processed why. Because you have just done something almost no one has ever done for her. You have looked at her giving and acknowledged the weight of it. Not praised it, not asked for more of it. simply seen it. And in that single moment, the dynamic between you becomes something she cannot easily categorize or dismiss because it doesn't fit any pattern she has encountered before. This is not flattery. Flattery is given to get something. This is reflection. And reflection is rare enough in human relationships that when someone experiences it, they begin to orbit the source of it almost without realizing. The second forbidden compliment requires even more courage, because it names something she herself may not have fully articulated yet. It requires that you have been present enough, attentive enough, still enough to notice the contradiction inside her, the tension between who she is in public and what she quietly longs for in private. And you say, again without drama, without urgency, "I think you're a lot more intense than you let most people see." Pause. Let that exist in the air between you. Because what you have just done is not complimented her depth. You have given her permission to have it. You have told her, without using these words, that her intensity is not too much, that the version of her she keeps carefully managed and socially acceptable, that version is not the one you're interested in. You are interested in the version she keeps in reserve, the version that thinks too much and feels too deeply and has learned to soften herself for the comfort of rooms that couldn't hold her at full volume. And that recognition, does not produce gratitude. It produces something far more powerful and far more lasting. It produces longing. The specific, aching kind of longing that comes from being almost fully understood. Because she now wonders, quietly and persistently, whether you could hold the parts of her that everyone else has asked her to put away. That wondering, that quiet, unresolved wondering, is the architecture of desire, not a trick, not a tactic, a truth offered to someone who has been waiting a very long time to hear it. But here is where most people make the mistake that undoes everything they've just built. They say the thing. They watch it land. They see the shift in her eyes, that almost imperceptible softening, that slight parting of the carefully constructed distance she keeps between herself and the world. They feel the moment open. And then, because they are human, because vulnerability in another person triggers anxiety in us before it triggers anything else, they fill the silence. They explain themselves. They add a joke. They reach for something lighter, something easier, because the depth of what just happened between two people frightens them more than the alternative of nothing happening at all. And in filling that silence, they erase it. This is the part no one tells you. The compliment, the real kind, the kind that reaches the interior, it doesn't need a follow-up. It doesn't need to be confirmed or softened or made more palatable. It needs to be left exactly where it fell. Because the silence after a true recognition is not awkward. It is full. It is full of everything she is suddenly feeling and hasn't yet decided what to do with. And your ability to remain still inside that fullness, to not flinch, to not retreat, to simply remain present without needing anything from her in return. That stillness communicates something words never could. It tells her that you are not afraid of depth. And a person who is not afraid of depth is almost impossible to stop thinking about. There is a particular kind of man who moves through the world like a question that hasn't been answered yet. He doesn't perform. He doesn't explain himself unnecessarily. He doesn't fill every silence with evidence of his own value. He simply pays attention, genuine, unhurried attention, in a world that is running out of it. And women who have been performing their whole lives, who have been managing the emotional temperature of every room they enter, who have been quietly brilliant and quietly exhausted and quietly waiting. They feel that quality in a person the way you feel a change in atmospheric pressure, before anything is said, before anything is done, in the way he listens, in the way his attention doesn't slide off them towards something more immediately stimulating. That quality cannot be faked, but it can be cultivated. And cultivating it begins not with learning what to say, but with learning how to see. How to sit with someone and resist the urge to be interesting, and instead become genuinely interested. How to notice not just what a person shows you, but what they are protecting. Not to exploit what they are protecting, but to quietly honor it. To let them know, through the precision of your attention, that you are not here to take anything from them. You are simply here, fully, in a way that almost no one ever is. Because desire, at its deepest level, is not about want. It is about safety. The specific, rare, almost mythological safety of being with someone who knows the complicated truth of who you are, and stays. Who sees the contradiction and the intensity and the carefully managed distance and the longing underneath all of it. And does not ask you to be different. Does not need you to perform. Does not leave. That is what these two observations unlock. Not attraction in the shallow sense, not a reaction you can manufacture on demand, but the beginning of something that feels, to her, less like choice and more like gravity. Like something she is moving toward without fully understanding why, and yet completely unable to stop. She will tell herself she doesn't know what it is about you, and she will be telling the truth. Because what you have given her cannot be named easily. It doesn't have the shape of a compliment. It doesn't have the weight of a confession. It lives somewhere in between, in that rare and disorienting space where someone looks at you and you understand, with quiet certainty, that they have seen something real. Not the version of you that learned to survive other people's expectations. The version underneath. The one you stopped introducing years ago because the rooms kept proving too small for it. And when someone sees that version of you, the unedited, unmanaged, quietly enormous version of you, and they are not overwhelmed and they do not look away, you don't just desire them. You need them to stay. And this is where we arrive at the thing no one wants to say out loud, but everyone who has ever loved someone deeply already knows. The most powerful force in human connection is not confidence. It is not charm. It is not the perfectly timed word or the carefully constructed version of yourself that you bring to first impressions. The most powerful force in human connection is the willingness to truly see someone, at the cost of being truly seen yourself. Because you cannot offer recognition without proximity. You cannot witness someone without allowing them, even slightly, even terrifyingly, to witness you back. And that is the hidden weight of everything we've explored today. These two observations, the one that names her quiet labor and the one that gives her permission to be fully herself, they don't just reveal her to herself. They reveal you. They reveal a man who has thought carefully about the interior lives of other people. A man who moves slowly enough through the world to notice what others miss. A man who is not hunting for a reaction, but offering something genuinely rare. The experience of being understood without an agenda attached to the understanding. That is not a tactic. That is a way of being. And ways of being cannot be switched on for the duration of a conversation and then switched off again when the stakes feel lower. They are either who you are, or they are performances. And she will know the difference. Not immediately, perhaps, but eventually, and with a certainty that will either draw her closer or push her away permanently. So the real question this video leaves you with is not which compliment to use or when to use it. The real question is this: are you willing to do the interior work that makes these observations genuine rather than calculated? Are you willing to become someone who actually sees people rather than someone who has learned to perform seeing them? Because there is a version of everything we've discussed today that can be worn like a costume. And there is a version that can only exist if it grows from somewhere honest inside you. The version that grows from somewhere honest. That is the version that changes everything. That is the version she will feel before you have said a single word. In the quality of your attention. In the unhurried way you exist in her presence. In the fact that when she speaks, you listen not to respond, but to understand. These are not techniques. They are the visible evidence of an inner life that has been taken seriously. And if you are here, watching this, turning these ideas over in your mind the way you do when something has touched something real inside you, then you already have more of that inner life than you give yourself credit for. You are already someone who thinks more carefully about desire, about connection, about the invisible architecture of human intimacy than most people ever will. You are already more than halfway to becoming the kind of person whose presence alone changes the temperature of a room. This channel exists for that person, for the one who already suspected that attraction was never really about the surface, for the one who has always felt that the most important things happening between two people are the things that are never said directly. The pauses, the restraint, the careful distance between what is felt and what is shown. If that resonates with something in you, stay. Not because this channel will give you a formula, but because it will give you a mirror. And sometimes, seeing yourself clearly is the beginning of everything. Subscribe to Psychology of Desire. Not for the numbers, not for the algorithm, but because somewhere in you, you already know. You've been looking for this kind of conversation for a long time, and you just found it.